First question. AAPIC is a very dynamic organization. What does AAPIC mean to you, and what changes would you seek to make if you were a part of the executive board?
I just want to start this off by disclaiming I'm going to be talking a lot, so bear with me. But AAPIC is a dynamic place. I see AAPIC as a home with many rooms. That's why I mentioned a lot more of the windows and doors aspect, because it's a place of solace where open-minded people can have a shared desire to learn and work with each other and to work towards shared goals that uplift not only ourselves but empower us and empower each other's communities. And I think it's just so powerful, like being able to come together like this and see each other at work and be together to work. And I hope that SDSU can see more of that and also just recognize our collective power and presence on campus. When it comes to a lot of the changes that I would make if elected president, one of the focuses I want to incorporate is growth plans for each member org, because every org can be built up from what they have now. And so what I was thinking was consistent one-on-ones, maybe just not only with me, but with AAPIC e-board, just being able to divide up the reps with executive board members so that we can come together to discuss and collaborate on what may need help being strengthened. And in terms of, like, let's say event coordination, member recruitment and retention, or even executive board morale, among other organizational issues that might be existent, but also using that as an opportunity to recognize each staff member and as well as their organization for the hard work that they do, as to decrease burnout and increase motivation. Because celebrating success can also uplift everyone as they're going through a really rough time, because balancing the identities of student leader and as well as just being a student can be very difficult. I also want to make sure that those meetings are brief, because as committing to both being a student, being on an executive board of their own, and being a part of AAPIC, wanting to be respectful and cognizant of that time. And then continuing with more of the changes, I want to do one-on-ones with, going back to my goal with AAPI faculty relations. As of right now, I only know one faculty resource group, which is Affinity, and that is the AAPI Faculty Women's Resource Group. And with the emergence of more resource groups that might encompass AAPI identities, I think it's very important to be able to talk to them about what's going on their end, and keep in the loop with, like, institutional movement, so that we can collaborate and build stronger relations to another half of SDSU's AAPI population. And then if I was a little bit confused, but also just in terms of looking at the Constitution and bylaws, if it's within the powers, I definitely want to introduce an Epiphany rep. Because I think it's important to maintain that communication with that institutional resource that we do have. Because with these workshops and these speakers, being able to provide that opportunity for our members to interact with things that is very easy to not have on other campuses. And then it kind of goes to help provide support for our AAPI students so that it can impact the lives of all of our members. Another thing that I wanted to introduce was a mailing list, in terms of like an AAPIC mailing list, so that everyone can stay in the loop of not just one org's events that they might be affiliated with, but all AAPIC orgs, and so that they can maintain communication with what kind of movement is going on within the member orgs. And I believe in terms of those changes, that's about it.
For your second question, what responsibilities/involvement do you have in and outside of school, and how do you plan to balance them as well as be a part of AAPIC board?
So like in my speech that I mentioned, I'm just going to reiterate that I'm going to be a DPE, most likely the diversity outreach student coordinator for the CIR, and that's about 10 to 15 hours a week, but the hours are super flexible in terms of just like I can work not depending on my schedule for meetings as well as class. I can schedule bits and pieces. I don't have to reach a maximum, rather than I just have to work and complete my tasks. And a lot of it is in collaboration with the assistant director of the CIR, as well as going back to Epiphany and possibly being an intern for that. They're changing the format so that it's multiple interns so that they are not overwhelmed with too many tasks that are happening each week. And a lot of it is mostly preparation in the summer until the beginning of the semester. And then within the duration of the semester is going to be more logistical things like checking people in, making sure that surveys are scanned and recorded. And within my prospective membership within Alpha Phi Omega, I just want to be transparent that there are set minimums for me to meet every semester in terms of like credits for things like going to specific fellowships, leadership workshops, and service hours. But due to the large active body, it is completely flexible. Even it's kind of so flexible for people who may be working, who may be in another lead, who may be holding leadership. And I just want to assure you all that even though I will be an active member, hopefully, that I am wholeheartedly putting APIC first because I want to lead our community. And I see APO as a vessel for self-development and community growth and community involvement. Also, when it comes to solidly tracking that and managing that, I rely heavily on Google Calendar to dictate when I'm going to wake up, when I'm going to eat, and when I'm going to sleep, and also just things in between that, meetings, classes, among others. I use Wunderlist to break down bigger tasks to track how much needs to be done, as well as using my study life for my academic purposes in terms of like class assignments, tests, knowing when I need to set aside my time to study as well as complete homework assignments. I usually do that towards the beginning of the semester.
We will now, sorry. We will now open the floor for questions from the audience. Okay. Now that a foundation of APIC has been laid this year, what are your plans for retention so that APIC is a constant presence on campus?
So I want to go back to one of those changes that I was talking about with the mailing list and also just with the one-on-ones. So a lot of it too is kind of just like with the mailing list, keeping people in the loop and having a lot of open invitations. The structure that I see it is a lot of social media usage in terms of Facebook RSVPs, and I'm trying to think of another device that can be used to kind of track those numbers. But also inviting people to our APIC meetings so that it's not limited to just staff, and kind of just being upfront, and also maybe not requiring, but very much encouraging the member orgs to emphasize what time, what day that we're meeting, so that the APIC room isn't just filled with staff members and e-board, but also just our general members for those who are interested in really being a part of this community, or the greater community, if that's a better word to say. In terms of presence, especially with what happened with Lunar New Year, and tracking that, kind of just making sure that the Asian Pacific Islander community also gets involved with AS. I feel like beyond SDC, kind of just like making themselves known, especially with homecoming and us winning, that was a great boost to kind of like what APIC stands for and how we collaborate. And so kind of just continuing that momentum of going out to events, whether it be within our own community or the outside community. I really want to encourage member orgs to be going to things such as, let's say, like the identity centers, because some of our API students might actually be identifying as maybe queer, gender non-conforming, or they might, like, you know, there are mixed race folks, mixed culture folks that can find solace within the CIR or the BRC. as well as the Women's Resource Center for those who identify as women. So it's kind of just like being able to show that we are making use of these resources that are on campus, and this is why AAPIC is kind of like needed and so important.
Are there any other questions? Yes.
How do you practice self-care?
So I get revitalized by hanging out with other people, and I learned this a lot in my counseling class to draw boundaries. So my life is dictated by Google Calendar, and just recently I think I found like one of my most solid support systems, like peer support systems, and I usually have been going to them in terms of like venting about frustrations. I believe also self-care also comes in kind of a lot of, I think therapy is for everyone, regardless of whether you have mental health issues or not, and I love my therapist, she is amazing. Just being able to talk about that and also be equipped with those tools to be able to maybe not catastrophize anything, or maybe not frame something to be so insurmountable, but being able to help me reframe what I can do and what I can achieve. That's helped me a lot, as well as just like hanging out with people and asking them to not bring up AAPIC related things, just so that I can have that time for myself to be like, I'm spending time with those genuine human connections, and I just don't want to think about that.